I guess you could call it, quarterback derby right now that is still very much up in the air is what's going on in New England. Now, we all know that Mac Jones is the long-term answer there, but Cam Newton, I think most of us still expect to kind of be under center there in week one. What's interesting is two things. Mac Jones, first of all, the Patriots had a closed-door group scrimmage with the New York Giants today. Mm-hmm. The Giants had their starting defense, and Mac Jones went, our boy John Elway, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady on those Giants. 25 of 27, 18 straight completions. And what makes this that much more interesting, VJ, is Cam Newton was not there. And Cam Newton was not there because of a confusion with COVID testing, but it came out in that confusion that it's pretty clear that he has not been vaccinated, even if he has not publicly said it. Basically, he had to get tested. The way in which he had to be tested kind of verified that he has not been vaccinated. I am not generally you have to get vaccinated if you don't want to. I do think the quarterback has a little bit of a different responsibility to his team. But what I just want to talk about in general is this. We always have this notion that a starting quarterback, that an NFL player should never lose their job over an injury. Do you think this Cam Newton thing falls in line with this, where Cam Newton is out for his own self-inflicted decision and Mac Jones balls out?
Well, I'm a big Cam Newton fan, but I'm going to take the fan hat off and put on the sports broadcast journalist hat and keep it a buck. If this is Cam's fault, then if you lose your job, I can't defend you. If this whole thing's your fault, now part of me is like, okay, how the heck does he make how's he getting the mistaken test?
TJ, let me jump in real quick, and I don't mean to cut you off. Yeah. I was talking to TJ about this yesterday. I am a person, I don't believe that anyone should be obligated to get the vaccine in the NFL if they don't want it.
Okay.
But with that said, I do think the quarterback is a little bit of a different deal. They're supposed to be the leader. They're supposed to set the example. So now Cam Newton, even if he is the starter, even if he is definitively better than Mac Jones, it's not the same as a starting offensive guard or your outside linebacker that has to miss time. And now we're not even extrapolating it out to the regular season, where imagine if Cam Newton or any of these quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, it's week 16 and you're in the wild card chase and you need a win and Kirk Cousins isn't there. So I want to get to the Mac Jones element of all this in a minute, but do you believe, and you can tell me I'm 100% wrong, do you believe that quarterbacks have a little bit of a different responsibility when it comes to the vaccine?
No, I just think that everybody has the same responsibility because football is the ultimate team sport. You need all 53 guys and 15 practice squad player guys and every coach and every trainer and every position guy. You need everybody. So I don't want to just put it on one guy because we always want to uphold the quarterback position. But if your left tackle's out, that doesn't help. If your start running back's out, that doesn't help. If your top 5 receiver in the NFL is out for coach, that doesn't help if you're missing those guys. So no, I don't agree with that. The quarterback has an added, I think that's a narrative that's popped up over the last few days, has this added responsibility. You're already the quarterback, so you already have all the responsibility. You can't get no more responsible than what you already have as a quarterback, just my opinion. So I don't think that that's the case. Should you lose your job to injury as a quarterback? Absolutely not. I know we've seen it before, and it kind of worked out for one guy and one team, one coach, one owner, right? So everybody wants to lean on that one, right?
Sure.
For real. Everybody wants to lean on Mo Williams laying the sledgehammer to my man from Washington State, Big Drew, on the sideline and pretty much changing the fortunes of the New England Patriots. Name me the other guy. Name me the other guy that came in and lost his job. Maybe Dak and Romo, but Romo was on the back end, right? So it only happened like one time or twice that people can really point to. I don't think so. But once again, back to my first point, if this is on Cam, then even as a fan, I can't defend him because you're making a decision to do something and put yourself in a precarious position and affecting your team. But I also want to know, how in the heck is he taking the mistake or whatever the story is, the mistaken test or taking the wrong test? Like, how is he giving the wrong test? Like, where's the mix up there is what I want to know.
Well, it doesn't, change the problem that he is still going to be under a different set of testing protocols, and he is going to be, a stricter contact tracing protocols, all that stuff.
Sure.
With that said, like I said a minute ago,
Uh-oh.
I think everybody thought, and everybody I still thinks, except for me, that Cam Newton is going to be the week 1 starter. What I'll tell you is this, VJ. I'm a Mac Jones guy. I'm a Mac Jones apologist,
Man.
and let me explain why. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in the world like I claimed in hour one. Go back and listen to the podcast. I was being a little sarcastic there. I would not have taken him ahead of Trevor Lawrence, and I would not have taken him ahead of Justin Fields.
Okay.
But, and I was a huge Justin Fields guy, but I did not understand this idea that it was inconceivable that he goes number 3 overall to the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan has a history with a quarterback very similar to him, actually a couple, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, and the fact in two things. What he did at Alabama, which I'll get into in a minute, and then the guy that you were talking about taking over him, who you took, Trey Lance, who I don't dislike Trey Lance, played one game at the FCS level last year. In terms of the Alabama, well, anyone could do what he did at Alabama. They, as David Gascon said, what does that guy know? No, I'm kidding. I love Gascon. But, Jalen Waddle, first-round pick, Devontae Smith, Heisman Trophy winner, Najee Harris, first-round pick. I get that argument. Gascon, if you're listening, I love you, man. That is a legitimate argument. My argument is this. Everyone keeps telling me, well, anyone could have done it, Alabama. What Mac Jones? Well, how come no one has literally in the history of college football put up the stat 77% completion percentage, the highest completion percentage in the history of college football? That's without Jalen Waddle, by the way, a top 10 pick for about 6 or 7 games. I'm just saying. I'm not saying he is the next Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. I just never understood this idea why it was so inconceivable that he could go so high in the draft, and I think he's making me look good right now.
Listen. Let's stop this, okay? Let's stop this.
And
let's stop with the just last year. Name me the last Alabama quarterback, and I'll do better than that, guys. I'll do better because that's low hanging fruit. You guys know me. I want the tangerine that's hot, ain't nobody touch, ain't no bugs been on, that shiny big one at the top. I want to climb the tree and get that. Show me the Nick Saban quarterback, and I'll let you go all the way back to Michigan State. Show me the Nick Saban quarterback that's coming to the NFL and done anything. There's 2 guys in the NFL right now. Everybody's questioning Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa. There's 2 guys right there that people don't even believe in, but you're going to believe in Mac Jones. Like these Alabama quarterbacks, if I can hand to Trent Richardson, I can hand to Derrick Henry, and I can hand to Mark Ingram. Oh, by the way, there's another Heisman Trophy winner there with Mark Ingram, and I can hand the ball. I'm throwing to Julio, Ruggs, who else? Waddle. I mean, Ridley, Calvin Ridley. Like, come on, like it's the system there, and I'm being protected by NFL style linemen, and my NFL style defense keeps giving me the ball back time and time again. Now to last year, I'm not going to knock the numbers. What I will say is this. COVID last year, a lot of players on a lot of these teams opted out, did not play. That was not, I don't want to call it not a true, college football season, but like, come on, there were a lot of things that just the stars fell right for Mac Jones last year. Alabama was still good. They were still going to win it.
I want to push back on the stars fell right. 1, a first-round NFL talent got hurt 4 games in. 2, he played against the toughest schedule in the history of college football. That's not hyperbole. 10 regular season games against SEC only. There was no New Mexico State, Utah Valley, Central Connecticut.
There's Kentucky. There's Vanderbilt.
Kentucky has a Josh Allen for the Jaguars was a top 10 pick from Kentucky.
Come on, man.
10 SEC only games. Then you play Florida in the SEC championship game. Then you play Notre Dame. Then you play Ohio State. That is the toughest schedule in the history of college football, bar none. And he put up the best completion percentage in the history of college football without a first-round pick at wide receiver against the toughest schedule in college football.
And I would really agree with you on the schedule thing if it didn't fall into a COVID season. I would give you that if it did not fall into a COVID season. You have to put that into the equation, Aaron.
Well, and I would say this, you mentioned Tua. The argument with Tua was he was terrible in big games. I mean, he got embarrassed against Clemson in that natty. Now, he played well in the second half against Georgia, but that when he became the starter, terrible in the second half against Clemson, or terrible against Clemson in the natty. He's banged up in a couple other games. The Orange Bowl against Oklahoma, he played well, but it was really the run game, and it was really the O-line. There was never a question. I mean, Mac Jones, the sample size was much smaller, but I mean, he was phenomenal in Alabama's biggest games. And you can tell me COVID this, COVID that. Ohio State still has a bunch of dudes that are playing in the league. Like they got a bunch of dudes across the board that are NFL guys. He put up 50-something points.
And a quarterback that you and I both like and love with some broken ribs, too, who was still out there slinging it around and doing his thing. That game could have easily went another way or been a whole lot closer than it was if the quarterback's not out there playing with some banged-up ribs. Listen, I think Alabama would have won the championship last year. I picked them. But when you look at just the entire scope of it, to try to put it in the lap of Mac Jones, we've heard this before. A.J. McCarron, Greg McElroy. Like, we've heard these names before. These guys are going to come into the league because they did this at Alabama, did this in Alabama, did this. Every quarterback there plays. They may not have had that percentage.
Real quick, did you feel the same way about Joe Burrow? One good year, a lot of NFL talent around him?
I'm very concerned about Joe Burrow, number one, because he's already been hurt. That always worries me about young quarterbacks. And Cincinnati decided to go with a guy who apparently can't separate and is really struggling in Jamar Chase. That's what happens when you take a year off. I'm just saying. That's what happens when you take a year off. And also, Penei Sewell, I was actually kind of wrong because I thought he was LT1, and he felt he's LT1. And every scout thought he was LT1, but I'm watching these preseason games and I'm watching him get blown by and get kind of pushed around by these NFL defensive linemen who did not play last year. Penei Sewell. Some of the other guys that did play, Terrence Marshall, receiver from LSU, played last year, and he looks great because he's coming off of a year where you've played already. So that's my concern with Joe Burrow. You can put names on pieces of paper, but he's already been hurt. They don't have the line there, and he only has the 1 year. I don't want to pay attention to that because you said something about Trey Lance that's important. You're right. He did only play one game. But his quarterback coach is an NFL guy, and every NFL guy that looked at him that judges these quarterbacks said, no, this guy can run an offense, call his own plays, adjust, get out of plays, audible. Like, no, Trey Lance, he's going to need some seasoning, but no. This kid can do it because we're the guys who do this for a living. We're telling you, the Mac Jones thing just kind of feels like we want somebody other than Cam Newton to play for the New England Patriots. I'm going to just say it and be real about it.